We're glad you're here, Rhonda.
Talk about being punctual.
Yeah.
Don't be early, don't be late.
All right, 7 o'clock time now for the work session following the city council meeting live here at Grand Haven City Hall. Let's go to the podium and Mayor Jerry Galo.
I call to order this Grand Haven City special work session. Linda, would you call the roll, please? Even though it doesn't say that, but I think we always do, so.
Manetza,
Here.
Bruger,
Here.
Scott,
Here.
Fritz,
Here.
McCaleb.
Here. We have 2 items on our work session agenda this evening, and the first one is by Rhonda Klein, our Neighborhood Development Coordinator. She's going to give us a presentation of neighborhood housing services and home repair projects.
Okay, so I'll just be quick, have some good information to give you. I always come in and ask for you to approve us applying for grants and talk about what grants we have, but I don't always get to come back and tell you some of those results, so that's what I'm here to do today. So right now, of the grants that we have 22 properties in and around the city of Grand Haven, and 24 grants happening at those 22 properties. The different grants that we have, or different sources of funds going into those properties, are the Mishta Home Grant that we got last October for $160,000. The Neighborhood Impact Program, that's the one that starts every spring. This year, before the funds ran out, we got 16 projects approved, which is the highest number we've ever had. The Loudoun Foundation here in Grand Haven is very generous, and they give us money. They gave it to us last year and this year, and they allow us to use it for gap funds. So if one of the NIT projects goes over the $7,500 limit, we have this $5,000 we can apply it to the overage. And so this year, so far, we've used it for 9 households. And the newest grant for the Neighborhood Enhancement Program, that's for City of Grand Haven residents only. We have 4 projects approved, and we also are going to probably need another grant increase, so they're going to give us some more money into that NEP grant for some hiccups that we ran into with 2 of our projects. So, and then also a lot of what goes into this is homeowner funds. We have 6 of the NIP projects this year that homeowners have had to contribute money to. So, this was last week. Mishta came and presented us with their nice big check. So that's just, can't read the check very well, but that's our $50,000 grant, our most recent one. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you what the address is and what's going on there, how much money it is, and then I'll tell you how much total money we have in rehab going on. So at Tamarack Lane, this is a roof project, a little over $12,000 there. This project was a furnace and windows at 510 Elliott, $74.40 total there. This is a roof at 9737 168th Street. That is the NIP program, that's $11,625. Another roof at 9629 168th, $81.52. 15344 David Street, 6997, and that is a combination of things going on there. 14998 Cleveland, 7410 for all new windows. Forest Park, 4940, that's also windows with the NIP program. 1221 Penoyer, 6950, windows, doors, and insulation. This project is at 1207 Waverly, siding, soffit, fascia, and gutters, and that's 8265. That's also the NIP program. This one is in Ferrysburg, 4260. She got a furnace, and that was also the NIP program. NIP again, 15124 David, roof and exterior doors. This one is on Taft in Spring Lake Township, 6516, new furnace and new air conditioner. 1825 Dyke House, this is the newest grant, the Neighborhood Enhancement Program, 9484 for a roof. The bottom one is 1218 Slayton. That's with our home grant, so it's a homeowner repair program. They're getting $43,125,000 in repairs. 828 Slayton, that's a window project. Back to the NIP program, that's $10,600. 609 Coburn, new furnace, new air conditioner, $7,615. This project is at 104 North Griffin. This will be quite the rehab project when it's all done. $61,870, and that's the homeowner repair through the home grant and the neighborhood impact program. So that's a big one. 309 Friant, in the city again, $15,550. This is another project where we had to combine two grants in order for the homeowner to get what they needed. This person needs a new sewer, and they also are getting some new exterior doors. So that's the neighborhood impact program and the neighborhood enhancement program for a combined $15,550. 1328 Waverly is siding, 7421. 1635 Robbins, this is siding, soffit and fascia and gutters, $11,042. This homeowner came to us because she was actually cited by the city for peeling paint. So it's a very expensive project, and we were able to actually work with Community Action Agency out of Holland, and between our grant and their grant, this cost, the total cost is being covered for that homeowner. 1838 Dyke House, this was our home grant, so this was a home purchase rehab, $27,912. This was another home grant, home purchase rehab, and Coleman, just outside of the city in Grand Haven Township, $28,918. So our total rehab to date, that's the 22 properties. Does somebody know the total? Our total rehab is $315,404.
Wow.
All right.
Those projects all have started since January and will all be finished by the end of December.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a big number and we're really excited about it. That's the most that we've done since I've been here, so.
Did very well.
And that's it. That's all my good news.
All right. Well, we keep improving our properties. It uplifts the whole entire city, so.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks.
So Rhonda, can you remind us what it takes to qualify for these NEP grants?
For the NEP
Yeah,
or for any of them?
or any of them.
Yes, yep. The NEP is our newest grant, the Neighborhood Enhancement Program. That one is nice because it actually has a little bit of a higher income cap. So that one is 120% of the area median income versus 80%. And I have those numbers. I have to always write them down, but so for the NIP, the Neighborhood Impact Program, and our home grant, you have to be at 80% of the area median income, which for a two-person household is just under $54,000. So for the NEP, Neighborhood Enhancement Program grant, you can be up to 120% of the area median income. For a two-person household, that's just under $81,000. So that's a significant increase. But we do get a lot of households who come in to qualify for the NIP and they're not eligible. So we were pleased to be able to get the grant for the 6 projects for a little bit over income to help those people that are just over.
So if you have only so much money and you say you have, I don't know if you have more applicants than money, I wouldn't be surprised. But how do you pick?
All of our programs are first come, first ready. Yep.
And the scope of the project is defined by the applicant and what they ask for?
It depends on which grant it is.
Okay.
With the NIP and the NEP, yes. They can, they call and say, my furnace is 25 years old, or in a couple of cases this year, my furnace is broken. And so, yes, we get the proper bids, and they select the bid that they want to use, and yeah, that's it. It's just, what they're asking for. But with our home grant, with those bigger projects, those are HUD dollars, so we actually have to do an inspection using the HUD checklist that they give us, and it has a whole set of standards. And so even if they maybe just came to us, like one of our original home grant clients came to us because her sewer needed to be replaced. She can get a sewer replaced under the home grant, but we also have to do an inspection and then fix everything else that's considered deficient under the HUD definition. And so that particular project ended up being the $43,000 project.
Yeah, I can see where that would spiral out of
Yes.
scope pretty quickly.
Yes, that goes very quickly. Yep.
Do you have a breakdown somewhere of the total value that's gone into the city of Grand Haven and the total amount that's gone to different municipalities?
I don't have it with me, but I can tell you that 13 of these projects are city projects. 1 Spring Lake Township, 1 Ferrysburg, and then 7 in Grand Haven Township.
Okay.
So I don't have the dollars, but that's how many properties.
Yeah, no, it's and very evident that this is a great program that's making housing more affordable in the city
Yeah.
and also in the adjoining municipalities. And I think I'd love to know that number and then compare it to the financial contribution from the adjoining municipalities who are benefiting from this, because right now the program is housed in the city of Grand Haven. It's benefiting Grand Haven Township, Spring Lake Township, Ferrysburg, and just want to make sure that our other municipalities are helping shoulder the cost and helping to support your efforts to acquire grants so that we can continue to make housing more affordable for everyone.
Yep, and I can tell you those amounts. I can give you that tomorrow.
That'd be great.
So are these 100% grants, or is there some of this that needs to be paid back, or does that depend on the project?
Again, it varies based on the grant. The NEP program and the NI program are both grants. Neither one of those, it used to be that the NIP program, there was a lien placed on the property for 5 years, but that's no longer the case. They've changed that requirement. So they're both grants, and there is no home ownership, length of home ownership requirement, and there is no lien. The NIP program you can only apply for once every 5 years, but there's no liens. Now the home grant, the home purchase rehab, that is a 10-year lien on the property, but it is a grant, a forgivable grant. The 2 really high-cost ones under the home grant, those are deferred loans. So at 5 years, 50% of that is forgiven, and then at year 20, they owe the remainder.
Rhonda, with the first 2 grants you described, it, if I'm following there, it doesn't sound like there's a length of home ownership requirement. Is there, however, some sort of anti-flip mechanism to prevent flippers from acquiring these grants and then putting them right back on the market and selling them for making a big profit? Or have they kind of let that go?
They have let that go. I asked about that. You used to have to own your home with no changes in the deed for 18 months for that NIP one, and then there used to be the 5-year lien. Both of those components were taken away this year, so I questioned that. I said, and now it's with the ownership, it's a 6-month requirement. You have to own it for 6 months, no changes to the deed. Like I said, there is no lien, and they just did not consider that would be a problem. So,
Interesting. The
Yep.
times have changed.
I know.
Rather foolish assumption, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at some of these numbers, and we haven't put a new roof on our house in quite some time, but I just wonder if people know that this is government funded, if that kind of affects what the bid price might be. Just not thinking anybody would jack up what their cost is because it's government funded, but just maybe, possibly.
Yeah, and I don't know. I suppose that's a risk we have to take with the contractors
Right.
if they know the cap. I don't always tell them the cap, but the ones that have worked with us, that we work with regularly for a long time, they learn that over
Right.
time. But we also have a couple of contractors that we work with continuously year after year. And because we work with him so much, I do know that he will lower his cost to make sure it fits within the grant numbers. So
Okay,
I think there's some give and take there.
all right, good to know.
I just want to tell you, thank you for all you do. I remember when we first started this, and it still is the same way, is go ahead and do this job, but we have no money for you. And it's the same thing, yeah, we still don't have no money for you. And you've been doing such a fantastic job of doing it by expanding it out into the townships, into the other area, which has actually helped you get bigger grants and that for us. So I just want to tell you, thank you, Rhonda, for all that hard work, because it is a lot of work for you to make sure that it maintains and stays viable for us. So thanks again.
No problem.
Yep, good
I'll
report.
sit. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
How does the prognosis look for 2020? Are you hearing things that the funding will be as available, less available, more available? What do you think?
Well, there's not going to be any home funds, and those are the federal dollars. MISTA is still making the choice to use all of those federal dollars in a different department as opposed to single-family home ownership. The NIP is one that opens every spring, and you know we help our clients apply for every year. And we just did learn that this new one, the NEP, their allocated amount has doubled for next year. So later this fall, we'll be able to apply again. And hopefully their money doubled, so hopefully our money will double.
Pat, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, the neighborhood impact projects, you had $50,000 worth of those?
The Neighborhood Enhancement Program, that's actually a grant that we got from MISTA. I know all the acronyms are hard to keep straight. The NEP, that's the $50,000 grant from MISTA.
Okay.
And that's the one with the higher income cap. That's the one that was brand new to us this year. And that one, yes. Last year, MISTA had $1 million to spread across the state. And this next upcoming year, they'll have $2 million.
Okay. And then the neighborhood impact programs, you did 16 of those.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know what the total was of those?
How much money? We don't get an allocated amount of money for
Okay.
that. That's the Federal Home Loan Bank program.
Okay.
That they have one great big pool of money, and you just keep applying and keep getting your projects approved until they tell you that there isn't any more money.
Oh, go, go, go.
I know. This year we submitted 16, and all 16 were approved, so.
Congratulations.
I know. I didn't have to
Good
tell
work.
any homeowners that they had to wait till next year. That was really nice.
You mentioned that MISTA was shifting funds away with one of these grant programs, from single-family homes to multi-unit, or,
The program, rental rehab type,
okay.
that started about the time that I started, so probably 4 years ago.
Okay,
They still get the same amount of money from the federal government, but they choose to put it into a different program.
okay. So
Because as an agency, they can make more money through their rental rehab programs than they can through the single-family homeownership division.
interesting. So will we be able to, in the city and the surrounding municipalities, access some of that funding, or is that a different process that you're not involved
It's a
in?
different type of programs that so far, a lot of it goes to like CDBG, rental rehab for over top of businesses, that type of stuff.
Okay, what Housing Next is working on with Ryan Fitzpatrick.
They very well maybe.
Thanks.
All right, thank you,
All
appreciate
right,
it.
thanks.
All right, our second enjoyable topic is the lead copper service line replacement.
Well said.
And Derek Gatos, our Public Works Director, will tell us the fun stuff about this.
Good evening, Your Honor. Derek Gatos, Public Works Director. Yes, we were here in January talking about this, and there was some interesting things going on with the state, and you guys decided to go a different route. And well, we've got some new news for you that the lawsuits that were contending the state's authority to do that has been, I wouldn't say settled, but dismissed. So we're being told that we have to. And so we're back here because it's very, very impactful. So I'll just go over a couple of the numbers first. The rule revisions, we replace 5% of our lead service lines a year, be done in 20 years. We have to have a confirmed inventory by 2025, which we're going to start working on here very shortly. And that actually means we have to physically put eyes on it. So right now we've done it through records that we believe are lead service lines by date of installation, records that have been or have not been replaced, and repair histories. But here's the thing, all costs of this, the water service replacement is supposed to be borne by the water system. So that's us, according to the rule. Our engineers are estimating about $6,000 per water service, and those funds are not allocated or are able to come out of our water system revenue. We just don't have enough. We have to do 90 minimum a year. I rolled that up to 100, try to get it done in 18 years. Maybe there might be a year we take off. We might find more. Either way, we got to be done in 20, so I was just trying to find a safe number. But here are by the numbers the city's water service that we're going to work with to solve this problem is there 1,800 lead service lines, we believe. We have 4,400 total customers, and we sell about 700 million gallons of water a year. And then of those 4,400 customers, we have about 5,400 meters, and those are those irrigation meters, not the deduct meters, just the irrigation meters that we have, so domestic and irrigation. Like I said, we want to replace about 100 a year, a little over 5%, in 18 years, equates to about $600,000 in increase in revenue to actually fund this lead service line replacement program. So we can do a couple things. Just dividing the cost by those numbers, we can raise our commodity rate 86%, or 86 cents, which is 25%. Sorry, 86,000 gallons. 25%. Or we have a rate of serve charge too. We can raise that by $11.37 per month per customer. We can divide it by the meters. So some of those that have double meters, it'll lower the per meter cost down to $9.25. Or if you wanted to, we can implement a lead service line replacement charge just for those 1,800 residents, and be $27.78 a month. Or we can do some combination thereof. And I just gave a couple examples. Your mind can wander on which we want to go, because there are some advantages as far as whether or not it's, if you raise water commodity rates, typically everybody then tries to conserve. So we're not going to sell 700 million gallons. We're going to sell less. But yet if we do it by per customer, that means everybody is getting the equal rate, and they don't all use the water equally. You can have a very small household use very little water, and you can have an industry use a lot. So, so there are different advantages to raising different parts of the rate. So I just threw out a couple different ones here, just to get you thinking. I don't know where you want to go with this.
Just the 86 cents a thousand would be what we do to spread it on all users based on volume used.
That's correct.
And a regular family of 4 might use 6,000 gallons a month, or?
About 5,400 gallons a month.
Okay, so 5,400 gallons a month times the 86 cents, so under $5 a month.
Yeah.
For
The average.
household of 4, yeah,
Right.
okay. I just wanted to translate that. The rest of them, we see a per month charge, what it would be per month if we use those, so that 86 cents would be a little less than $5 for a typical residential customer.
Now, what's pushing this decision so quickly is we have our Fulton Street reconstruction project that's supposed to kick off in the fall, and engineering plans are 90% complete, and this decision dismissed the lawsuit came about 2 weeks ago, and we're saying, our engineer and the DEQ are saying, your plans better show replacement all the way inside to the home or to the property. So on the Fulton Street project alone, there's 27 water services, 27 water services at about 168. Or, yeah, $165,000 worth of additional costs.
Derek, in your last option, the $27.70 per lead service line charge, while you replace these, you continue to charge that, or, I mean, how does that evolve over time?
Yeah.
All these others would stay in place presumably until all the lines are changed, because you gotta pay that $600,000 every year. I assume that $27.70 per lead service line charge, even if you got yours replaced in year one, does that continue, or?
Yeah, through
How's that supposed to work?
Yeah, through year 18, and you have to, each one of them have to pay that for 18 years.
Okay. I mean, kind of makes sense that the people with lead service lines would pay more, but as you get yours replaced, you're continuing to pay that for a very long time, even though you're no longer one of those with a lead line.
Yeah, they gotta, you know, in that scenario, they're paying the whole $6,000 just over a period of 18 years. And we'll just pick off, as revenue comes in, we'll pick off and replace 100 of them and
Well,
And the distressing part of all this is that we passivated these lines with chemical treatment for a very long time and never had a problem. And now because of the problems they had in Flint by making bad judgments, everybody gets to do this.
yeah, I think everybody agrees lead in water is not a good thing. We just got done with our lead samples this year, and out of 35 new homes, 35 total homes, 34 of those were new homes. 28 of them had 0 lead detected in 2 samples, and 7 samples came back with a detectable lead amount. The highest was 2.75 parts per million, where the maximum contaminant level is 15. So our worst case is actually pretty good.
see, this is just an example of the one size does not fit all. And some judge somewhere puts on his black robe and decrees that everybody has to do this, and it's gotta come out of your pocket. It doesn't come out of his. He can just demand that you have to do this, and you have to pay for it. And he can then take his black robe off and go home and put his feet up, and we're stuck with the problem of having to figure out how to fix a problem and pay for it, the problem that we don't have. And this is infuriating to me.
Was this a,
We have so much that we can spend our money on. We have so much. We have crumbling roads. We have a lot of real infrastructure problems, but instead we're going to throw money at a non-existing problem because some judge says this is what you got to do. And I just, there seems to be like there should be, why do, judges, they're just people like everybody else, but they have an immense amount of power, and it's way beyond scale of, they don't worry about when it gets down to the street that we've got to figure out how to do this. And this to me is just, there's something wrong with this picture. So which one of these do I like? 0.
Derek, on the last option of the 2778, just for clarification, there are 1,800 that are known with lead service right now.
That's
Is that-
correct.
Okay, and then the idea is just those 1,800 who have lead yet
Yeah.
are paying 2778 per month. Essentially, it's an on-bill financing, 0 interest loan to cover the 6,000, or, well, it's 0%, and it's gonna happen sometime in the next 18 years.
Right.
Okay. And there are a total of how many, customers in the loop? Did you say 4,000 households?
4,400.
24?
Okay. So the other 2,600, if I got that right, do not have lead
That's correct.
service lines. And those 2,600, what are some of the reasons they don't have lead service lines? Did the homeowner take action and replace them? Did the city, did we change process? They were built after a certain date?
No, they would have been built after the lead service lines, that material of choice was used.
Okay.
So probably in the 50s is when they switched over to a soft type K copper, which is what we would use today. That should last 100, 150 years. So the timing of it when it was built. The other thing is that some of them have already been replaced. I think Councilmember Fritz has already replaced his. to the tune of thousands of dollars.
Yep.
So, so some have been replaced and some have been installed new.
Okay. So we have time to think about which option or some combination of options, correct?
About 2 weeks.
About 2 weeks, okay.
Yeah, till 7:30.
All right, yeah, good.
No,
Just to, I want to underscore something that Derek said now. You said you tested 35 homes this year,
that's correct.
and you said something like 34 of them were new homes. You mean they were new to your testing program?
That's correct. They were
New
new,
homes.
and they are lead service line homes.
Yeah, all 35 are homes that we know are lead service lines. And out of those, none of them met the maximum contaminant level. Only 4 or 5 actually detected any lead.
So 7 of the 35 did detect lead. And the threshold is 1 part per billion, so it's, our highest was 2.75. So,
That's your threshold of detection.
well, yeah, threshold is 1 parts per billion.
Right.
And the maximum contaminant level is 15, so,
Yeah, so,
yeah.
but that's the thing about the way they analyze the water now is their detection limits are so very low, you can almost find atoms
Yeah,
of the material.
parts per billion.
So is this like when you test this, do you let the water run for a minute, or this is fresh out of the tap?
This is, actually, they have to be stagnant for a minimum 6 hours.
So that even tells, this is standing water, this is not water that you've been running
Right.
for to cool it off for 5 minutes. This is standing water in your lead line. So 0 detectable lead. But instead, we gotta spend what, how much? How many thousands of dollars?
About 600,000 annually.
$600,000 to fix a non-existent problem.
A year.
A year. This is, rather than doing things that we really need to do, makes a lot of sense.
As I recall, this rule is imposed administratively rather than judicially.
Yeah,
I mean,
the
it was-
technicality of that is, I believe so too, but I think the rule actually gives the state the authority to do that.
It does, but the origin of this rule
Yeah, it was
was,
signed,
it's being enforced judicially because they denied lawsuits.
yeah.
But this came out of the Snyder administration, so we wouldn't get another Flint. That's basically what this is about.
Yeah.
So maybe
He signed it in July of 17, I think it was.
so
before he-
maybe we need to talk to our representatives in Lansing about whether this needs to be spread out more, whether this is really the right thing to do. But this is being imposed on us from state government. And if there's no demonstrable need for this, you would think that it could be fixed by the state government. It could at least be spread out so that these kinds of costs don't bankrupt cities. We're in pretty good shape financially in many ways, but there's a lot of cities out there that are really gonna struggle more than us with this. And apparently that doesn't seem to make much difference to the people making these decisions. I'm not preaching to the choir, but that's just the way I see it.
Well, this is one of those things, if there is anything that we can do, I just hate to roll over and die on this hill. This costs too much to say, okay,
Road trip.
Your Honor, we'll just go along with it.
I think we should do a road trip again, head down there. All of us head down at the same time, voice our opinions to them.
The problem is you need this money for Fulton Street, don't you?
Yes.
Well, we
We
need
have
to,
we have to do something.
yeah, we gotta give that direction to the engineers, because they, that's state law now, so they have to be, follow that, and I suspect the Eagle now, I'm gonna call them DEQ for forever, but the old DEQ agency would probably make that a requirement of our permit. In order to place the water main there, and so the other option is to leave the water main in place after we construct a new road, and that's silly in and of itself. So yes, we need this
You need a
decision now.
Yeah, I understand that. That's what I thought.
Sorry to bring it to you.
7:30 in 2 weeks, we have to make a decision.
Yeah, well, that's why we're here tonight, to let you know that we gotta pick something, and it's all not pleasant. But there's combinations, that could be preferences of the council on which way you wanna go, a fixed rate, a commodity rate, both, 75 this, 25 that.
What was the cost of the Fulton Street project? What, the added cost?
165,000.
That's the additional.
Yep.
What's the overall cost of the project?
It was in Pat's memo. 1.6, so about 10%.
Can we, last option there again, with the on-bill, basically it's on-bill financing, for lack of a better terminology. Does that take place only when the lead line is replaced? Or
No,
does that go immediately, we start charging everyone who
It
has
would,
the lead line?
in order to gain that, that revenue, it would be all 1,800 people right away, would give us $600,000 a year, and do that for 18 years.
Yeah, he's trying to generate some cash flow for every year.
Right up front, yep. Which, back to your point, Bob, if we had some more time, lower that number, make it more reasonable.
I mean, this isn't news. We've known about this for a while. It's just, we were hoping that some magic bullet would come along and keep us from doing this. Well, not happening.
The trouble with that 2778 is that the people that have the leaded lines are on the lower income because they have the older houses.
Yes, they do.
And so we're forcing them 2778 a month to stick it down their throat. People that really can't afford it
Yeah.
have a hard time with that.
But and then the flip side is that someone like Mike has already done it. So some of these people have already done it,
I know.
and we're charging them when they've already done it.
I wonder if raising the water commodity rate.
Doesn't matter to me.
By 86 cents per thousand
Okay.
gallons, in the hopes that somebody gets sane about this, that would be the easiest thing to put on and the easiest thing to remove if it's discovered that we don't have to do this.
The trouble with that is, we're already seeing brown grass all over town. You keep raising the water rates.
Well, it's fall.
Well, it's fall now, but it's not gonna.
It'll be white, it'll be white
Yeah,
soon.
But fall now, yeah,
I
okay.
can find a silver ladder.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're right, that is the easiest for us to drop back down if we want to.
Yeah.
Well, what,
It is, it's after 7:30. We
Oh,
need to
I'm
get
sorry.
into the council meeting, so I don't know if
So
you want
caught
to come
up
back
in
to this.
In the
Thank you,
thinking about
Pat.
this. Do we need to continue this, or are we good where,
We need to talk amongst ourselves or something.
wait,
Well, I don't know. Did you get any direction you needed?
Not yet, and
All right.
it's really the Avonmarsh's fault, and they're here.
yeah, all right,
Well, that's,
They haven't gotten into their,
we probably ought to revisit this.
all right. Hang on, and we'll come, don't go anywhere, we'll come back to this. Sorry, people, I got caught up in the moment. So we will temporarily adjourn the work session and start the city council meeting a few minutes late. And Linda, if you'd call the roll, please.
Manetza?
Here.
Ruger? Here. Scott?
Here,
Fritz?
Here.
McCaleb?
Here. Our invocation this evening will be given by Reverend Troy Hauser Bryden, First Presbyterian Church. Please remain standing after the prayer for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you for having me. You bow your heads with me in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, and thank you for the ability to be a community together. We ask for your presence in our families and our community, and pray for strength and understanding in our marriages. We ask for loving and strong bonds between children, teenagers, adults, and grandparents, and pray that each branch of the family would demonstrate love for one another. We ask for healthy, thriving relationships in our neighborhoods, and we pray for the different cultures that they'll be able to understand and care for one another. We pray that the diversity of your people will be celebrated by all neighbors just as you affirm your love for each one of us. God, we ask for a flourishing community where neighbors learn to love each other and come to know each other. We pray that we can be good stewards of your love to each of our neighbors and ask that you would help us learn from our community, then it may be a place where all are welcomed. Father, we ask that you give our mayor and city councilors wisdom to make decisions affecting our neighborhood. We pray that they will be thoughtful in their decisions and listen to the voices of the community. And we pray for courage to stand up for our community and live with grace and dignity in our city. Our Prince of Peace, we ask you for your presence in the streets and homes in our community. We pray for law enforcement, for their safety and wisdom and compassion in all circumstances. We pray your comfort for those who have experienced violence, and we ask your protection for all our neighbors. Through it all, we ask for your justice and flourishing to be a part of this beloved city of Grand Haven. Bless the work of our city council and administrators this night. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, thank you very much. We have several appointments, 3 appointments this evening to consider. Linda, do you want to read through those?
Sure. This is to appoint Tony Van Houwelingen as a voting,
Everybody's here.
I'm sorry?
I think everybody's here.
Okay. To appoint Tony Van Houwelingen as a voting member to the Airport Board for the remainder of his term expiring June 30th, 2020. Karen Lowe to the Historic Conservation District Commission with a term expiring June 30th, 2020. And Andy Vanderhook to the Main Street DDA with a term expiring of June 30th, 2023.
All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Comments or questions on any of these potential appointments? If not, we will vote.
Manetza?
Yes.
Bruger?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Fritz?
Yes.
McCaleb?
Yes. All right, do you want to do this in any particular order, Linda?
I have Tony first.
Okay.
Tony's here.
Come on up.
Oh. What I'll do is I'll just read the oath. I, Tony Van Houwelingen, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of voting member of the Airport Board for the remainder of my term expiring June 30th, 2020, in and for the city of Grand Haven, county of Ottawa, and state of Michigan, according to the best of my ability.
Thank you, Mayor.
Next, I have Karen. I, Karen Lowe, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of the Historic Conservation District Commission in and for the city of Grand Haven, county of Ottawa, and state of Michigan, according to the best of my ability. And Andy, last but not least. I, Andy Vanderhook, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of the Main Street DDA in and for the city of Grand Haven, county of Ottawa, and state of Michigan, according to the best of my ability.
I do.
We're to the approval of consent and regular agendas. We are looking for other, let me go back. There are some other openings available for boards and commissions, so if anybody's interested, the vacancy list is on the website. So we appreciate everybody that, steps up to do these very important volunteer positions. So we appreciate very much everybody that comes to volunteer, so thank you. So the approval of consent and regular agendas, are there any changes?
I have none, Your Honor.
All right, anybody up here? No, well, then I need a motion to accept the agendas as presented.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. If there are no questions, then we will vote.
Bruger?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
Manetza.
Yes.
McCaleb.
Yes. All right, general business, call the audience. This is one of two opportunities to address council on anything that you have on your mind. So if you want to come and tell us who you are and where you live. Yes, at the microphone, please, and you'll be on the radio and.
Wow, didn't know I was going to become famous tonight.
You weren't nervous yet.
Yeah.
Well, good evening. My name is Jason McFoy, address 14325 Woodhaven Court in Grand Haven. And this is my first inaugural appearance before City Council with any complaint of any sort, but what I experienced over this past weekend, Labor Day weekend, with my flight aviation, which has run the helicopter business out of the airport now, was just on a whole other league from a disruption which I've ever experienced. And I'd put it on par with having somebody driving up and down my street with their radio blaring as loud as they possibly could, going by every 2 minutes, up and down for 4 days straight. And when I saw an article on Fox News saying that their goal was pushing forward and getting this for 7 days a week, I said, well, we've got to do something. And thankfully, the next day, one of my neighbors walked by and just unsolicited said, good gosh, what is going on? And just started talking to me about what they were already looking to do about this, because it was completely untenable. And I don't know how anybody in our community could put up with it, but I know we're about tourism. I love Grand Haven. I've been here for 25 years, moved here in the Coast Guard, and fell in love with the place after I was stationed here. Went out to Hawaii for 2 years and came back because Grand Haven is such a great place to be, and been here for 25 years since. I also got to fly many Coast Guard helicopters out of Grand Haven, up and down all of this area and out of Muskegon Airport as well. So I'm all for what we're about here in Grand Haven, I think, but what I got to experience this weekend was just on a whole nother level from anything I've experienced before, even in a very metropolitan area. I've lived in Honolulu, I've lived in other big cities, and I've never had anything quite this disturbing. So I'm hoping the City Council, because I think ultimately you all have the decision-making authority over what types of businesses operate in the community. I hope you take into account citizens' views. I think some of my neighbors might be here tonight to express their views as well. So I hope you listen to it carefully and don't just take into account one business owner trying to move into the community and make money off the backs of many of our families in the community that are having to put up with it. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, Your Honor, Commissioners. My name is Tom Jacobois. I live at 14279 Terry Trails in the township. And Jason just did a wonderful job of explaining what we all endured over the Labor Day weekend. It was frustrating because there was no one to call and complain, and we're all on holiday, but we couldn't enjoy it. The helicopter was taking off approximately over our house every 3 to 5 minutes for 3 consecutive days in daylight. And that chop, 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 you can't think. And it really drives you crazy. And all I could think of is, how could this happen? We've lived here for 13 years. We love this town. And nothing like this has ever happened before. So hopefully we can address it as adults, not get terribly emotional about it, and see if something can be done to alleviate this in the future. We also heard that I went over to the airport and talked to the 2 operators, and they said, oh, this is wonderful, look at these lines. We're hoping to do this 5 days a week, year-round, whenever we can. And I thought, if that's the case, I want out of here. So I hope that we study this carefully, that we really take it to heart, because ultimately, if this were to run unabated, our property values will go down, and this will be a less desirable place for us to live, but we'll probably have a very successful business operating overhead. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Hello, I'm Brock Hesselsweet from 14250 Cricklewood, who have talked about the constant noise over top of us. In fact, I and my neighbor Lisa were standing out in our side yards trying to talk to each other we had to wait for about a minute and a half for the helicopter to come and get far enough past us so we could continue our conversation. It was that loud. You have to think about with a helicopter, its blade is making a lot of noise and it's blowing all that sound downward to keep the helicopter up in the air. I did go out to the airport because I was at the community garden and started timing them. And they had them lined up. It was like an assembly line. The helicopter would leave, it would come back in 5 minutes. It would take them about 3 minutes to get the people off, another group on, and then off again. So that means that they were flying over our area, and this has to be affecting all the people down along the lake shore as well, because they were flying like right over the lake shore, the edge of the water and the sand, and going down until they turned around and came back. And so it was like 5-minute ride and 3 minutes to change people and go up again. So about every 8 minutes they were going past us twice. And it was so disturbing. You know, a helicopter noise, all of you know this, a helicopter noise is much more than an airplane, an aircraft or propeller-driven aircraft noise. And we're hearing that thump, 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 and it's just so difficult. So we're hoping that through, if the council, we also plan on going to the airport board meeting and raising the same concerns. But the fact that it has gotten to a point that this noise and them flying low, it's just way too much. Even if they've kind of moved it over to the center of the park at Rosie Mound, and you know that means they've moved about 500 feet south, and that's it. So it's still very annoying, and the line north and south is exactly the same as it was before. So we're hoping that something can be done to stop it, not looking for even a lower frequency, but we would hope that they, you know, whoever's given permission for them to do that could rescind that permission. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Lisa Thibodeau, 14220 Cricklewood, Grand Haven, and I don't have much to add other than I support everything that my neighbors have said. Outside, you cannot carry on a conversation. If you're in the house with all the doors and windows shut, if you have the TV on, you have to turn the TV up. If you're talking to somebody hard of hearing, you have to talk even louder. And a complaint from one of my neighbors who has small children, it continued even after bedtime, which now that school has started presented a problem for her. So we hope something can be done. I find it odd that a city that has a noise ordinance for radios, that we won't be able to solve this problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nancy Amberger, 14341 Duneswood, Grand Haven. Yes, I have lived in my home for 50 years. And in those 50 years, this last summer has been unbelievable. And I guess I have a couple of suggestions. I don't want to put anybody out of business, but perhaps they could change their pattern. Maybe we could have 3 times a day through our home. Maybe they could go south and go up that way for 3 times or 4 times or 6 or 8 times. Or maybe they could come over Grand Haven and fly up the beautiful Grand River and come that way. But anyways, we would like something to change. Don't put them out of business, but just give us some relief from that noise.
All right, thank you.
Barb Jacobvoice, 14279 Terry Trails also. I think one of the things that I've realized is that there's a great deal of confusion about who has responsibility for this occurring. And I guess that would be my question. We all recognize that the airport is owned by the city. Do you have the decision rights? And to allow such permits and also to revoke such permits if necessary. It would be helpful for us to know that. And No, it also occurs to me that perhaps there is some, obviously, if there's a financial incentive for the concession operator, and maybe somewhat of a benefit financially for the airport. But I think that even if that were true, we have to apply reason here and recognize that the quality of life in this community is perhaps more important than a few dollars here and there. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Mark Peace, 14381 Terry Trails. I can't really add too much than what you've already heard, other than, it started at 9 a.m., I think. It went till, yeah, so it's not like this is just a short 2-hour inconvenience. It's all day long. We would go downstairs. You could still hear it, even with all the windows shut. We actually ended up leaving for the day just because it got to be so annoying. But I feel bad for the people that were at Rosie Mountain Park trying to relax for the day, hearing that all day long. I feel bad for the people on the boats that were just trying to relax, or the people on the beach. So, I really think this is something we need to really consider, whether this is in the best interest of the area. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Todd Amberger, 14341 Duneswood, also same neighborhood. We've lived there for a better part of 50 years, and it was just unreal. There's never a time when you don't hear the helicopter. You either hear it going by, boom, 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 boom. The rides must be very short, and then it comes right back. We also took a walk through Rosie Mound on Saturday or Sunday or something, and this beautiful park that we've walked through for years and years, all of a sudden is noisy, and it's for one company's capital, making money. I think it's kind of a real affront to everybody that lives in that area, and they could change the pattern or whatever. Anyway, I just want to add my vote.
All right, thanks.
Hi, Jeff Olds. I live in Dewberry Place, which is very close to Terry Trails. I was in 2 locations on Monday, one at the end of Holcomb Hills and the other in Terry Trails. I think changing the flight pattern is really not going to solve the issue, because I've already heard from other people I know that have complained that they've changed the flight pattern. But the flight pattern doesn't change the noise along the lake. You're still going to have them coming up and down the lake constantly. So both of these locations, one further south, one further north, it was just unbelievable. And I have certain hearing issues that are affected by that type of percussion or whatever noise. And I just think that, for the good of the community and the taxpayers, at the expense of one person running this operation, I just think we need to really consider the residents of the community. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? One more.
Ann Hessel-Sweet, 14250 Cricklewood, also the same gang. I just thought of 2 additional things. One's personal, it's not just this past weekend. It's been going on all summer. It just seems like it's getting worse. I think during what was the thing where they were dropping people out of airplanes, the parachute thing, that was a bad day. So it's been, especially the holidays, but it's been throughout, and the weekends, throughout the whole summer. So it's not just this past weekend. I want to make that point. And the other is, I find my stress level this past weekend was over the top. I was really grumpy. And so there's something about that that just makes me angry. So I need to get out of here. So those are my 2 things I could add. I agree with everything everybody else has said. I am seriously frustrated about this. We've been here 40 years, and it's never been like this, ever. So.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Ron Berg. I live at 312 Terrell Avenue, inside the city limits. And this weekend I was out at 8:30 in the morning listening to that noise, and I'm going, I had to quit work. I mean, this is crazy. You can't even go out in the yard and work all day unless you want to just put earplugs in because of the propeller sound going round and round. So we have a small sampling today, but if you could consider it's going to grow because it is extremely ignoring. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Anyone else? Okay. Normally, I leave this as comments from the, general call, comments from the audience, but I know we've just had this in this neighborhood, Coast Guard Festival, we had it, the folks in Highland Park, we had a whole series of complaints similarly. So I do think that is, I went to the airport board meeting last week, if I can editorialize here a little bit, and told them some of the things that I had heard, and some of the noise issues were explained just by, although we have a lot more traffic, a lot more airplanes than we did, but this helicopter business, I think, is something else, altogether. And I do want to be, and as I said at that meeting, I want to be a good neighbor, and the noise that this is creating and the irritation it's creating, the frequency of the trips, I don't think is making us a good neighbor. So the city, the thing is, it's not a city operation as far as the helicopter rides. It's the city's airport, but the city gets the blame for the unhappiness of our neighbors, and so it is a big concern to me. So Pat, if you have any. I don't even know the name of the company, but it's out of the airport. It doesn't come to the city. The city does not benefit by this at all. It's part of the operator's contract, right? But hold on, because I don't want to make this a debate, but I'm going to see if we can find because this is actually comment time, so I want to turn it into an agenda item, but I'm going to ask the city manager for some direction on this.
Okay, of course, people can fly where they want. That's a Federal Aviation Administration prerogative. We don't have any control over where people fly or how frequently they do it or who they have in there. But we do own the property where they're taking off, and if the city council decides they want a particular business to operate there or not, you can direct that. You own the property, and you can absolutely direct me to take steps to permit or not permit different types of businesses. If you find them to be causing you a problem, you can take action. So you can, you've encouraged maximum use of the airport in the past. That's always been our direction. Maximum use of the marina, our parks, everything we build and invest in and spend public money on, you hope it gets used a lot. But sometimes careful what you wish for, and it gets used in a way you don't want it to be used, and you can certainly step up and control that. So if that's the direction City Council would like us to take, we can do that. We can not allow helicopters to conduct this business at our airport. Now, helicopters can still fly all around our neighborhoods as long as they stay within the height restrictions, but we can control where they land and take off and whether they land or take off. And that's, of course, provided you're not being discriminatory in an illegal fashion. If we're discriminating based on nuisance and noise, that's okay. You can't discriminate based on many things, but this would be one area where I don't believe you would have any trouble at all, and I think you could take control of this if you so chose. So I'd be happy to do that if that's the direction you'd like us to take. I'm sorry, off the top of my head, I don't remember the exact weekends where this was happening, but they were coming out in a different direction, and I think some of you probably heard some of those complaints earlier in the summer. There were 2 weekends that were very active. They posted signs all over town and were giving a bunch of rides out there, and we heard considerable complaints. So we got the message passed along that you need to adjust your flight path, try different routes that don't cause so much grief in our local neighborhoods. And we did not tell them to go fly over a different neighborhood. We said, try to find a way that you don't go over people's homes frequently. And if you do, go very high and get out maybe over the water, and then if you want to come down closer over the water, but the way they were doing it was clearly upsetting people. And we passed the message along. I have never talked to, I don't know the name of the company, but I asked Tom Manderscheid to pass the message along to Earl Bears that, if we continue to get these kind of complaints, the only recourse we have is to prohibit it. So please adjust flight paths, do what needs to be done so that you're not bugging people. And I feel bad people didn't have my number because we were ready. If the phone started ringing over the weekend, we were ready to go out to the airport and say, stop. You're annoying people, we're getting complaints. So in the future, I'd encourage people to call our public safety department, and we can make sure public safety is aware that in the event of disturbances that are arising out of our airport, that we do control what goes on the ground there, and we can take steps. So I do feel badly that a number of our neighbors suffered an unpleasant weekend, but it is within your authority. If you want to corral this, you can.
Okay. So, well, let's leave this. We appreciate you coming and explaining your experience, and so we will look at that as a council as to what we want to do going forward. So, but this is I'm going to go back to the fact this is council. This is call the audience as public comment time. So it's not a time that we make a decision, but we appreciate you being here and letting us know your experience, and then we will look to see what our options are going forward and see what council decides to do. So thank you. You need to hold on. Oh.
Yeah, would you like me to get into a discussion with the audience? That's not typical.
No, that's okay.
We don't discuss that.
You can call public safety if you want to call somebody. You can call the airport if you want to call somebody. Okay, all right.
I am in the book, so you can look me up.
All right. Okay, anyone else? This is all for public comment. If there isn't anybody else on any different subject, we'll move along with, but I don't want to have, miss somebody that wants to talk about something different. But if there isn't anybody here that wants to address that, then we'll go back to finishing up our work session and talk more about our water issues. Thank you.
You guys can stick around for lead service. I wish we could get that much passion for the lead service pipe problem.
Oh, they'll be on soon.
Yeah, right. We'll hear from them next. You're right.
Yeah, when they get the bill, they'll be here.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead charging people.
That sounds like a good idea to me.
Okay. Tony McGee from Avonmarsh is going to speak about his role and how we have to deal with this right now. So.
Can we close the doors momentarily for that would be until everybody clears?
Yeah, they'll be gone soon.
Thank you.
Chase them out in the hall.
All right.
Mayor, council members, I'm not here to talk about helicopters.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I'm here to talk about lead service lines. From when you passed your original resolution last year till recently, there's been a lot of activity on this in terms of clarifications, DEQ coming out with, EGLE coming out with additional directives, and the lawsuits getting thrown out of court. What has pushed this issue in front of you right now today is the Fulton Street project, because we do have that water main to be replaced as a part of the project. We have to get a permit to DEQ. The DEQ will not issue a permit without us doing a full lead replacement, unfortunately, of the service lines. And the MDOT will not release their funding without the full permit. So at a minimum, I think we should look at how we handle this project while you look at some of the other alternatives so as not to endanger all of the grant money we've been able to get for Fulton Street to do this project. No question at all, this is an unfunded mandate that is put on top of a lot of communities throughout the state. Unfortunately, it is the law. Our licensing requirements require us, if we're doing the project, to do it. It's not an easy decision before you, but that's kind of what's forced our hand to this today, is just the timing of this project with some of the recent court rulings.
Right.
Happy to answer any questions you have.
The numbers kind of speak for themselves, I think.
Yeah, they do, unfortunately.
You can try to make them be something else.
It's what it is, yes.
Well, so one of the solutions we could have is have a resolution repealing the one we did in January at the next council meeting while we hash over how we're going to pay for this. Because right now, we're just going to get the permit to the state so we can get the water main permit, so we can get the federal fundings, federal funds, which in this case total $750,000 in the street portion. So we definitely don't want to give that up. And the timing of getting that permit in and getting it back from Eagle and making sure that our project gets bid in the right months and working with MDOT is just, yeah, we're right at that. So maybe it's just a resolution at the next meeting and we can figure out where the money's going to come from, at least the 165, because we still have to start next year. This 27 will count towards our 100. So I still have, 73 more to go in calendar year 2020 to figure out how to do it and how to pay for it. And we have a program that me and Matt have devised that to be able to get it done and comply with the requirements, but we just need the funding to be able to do that. So if that appeases the council, maybe just for the resolution next time, repealing what you guys passed earlier this year and getting us forward, and then we can come back and crunch all the numbers unpleasantly.
So do you need the actual mechanism of how we raise the money now or 2 weeks from now, or?
No, we just
say we're going to do it.
Yeah, just say we're going to do it. Because right now you have a resolution that tells me I can't. This is what we're going to do. But in the end, we need to figure out how to actually raise the revenue.
So unless something changes, we'll have to deal with this on an ongoing basis for the next 20 years. Yeah. So it's not like it's whatever solution we come up with now has to work.
Yeah.
Until we come up with something better. And I think that if we make a resolution to change our commodity rates, whether it's ready to serve charge or usage charges, that can easily be modified in the future if we come up with a better system.
Sure.
We just have to have some way that we know does work that's going to pay for it.
Okay.
And we can't just assume that we can make it go away even if we try. We can try, but I don't know if it will succeed. I think others are also trying.
Yeah.
But making this go away is probably not easy to do.
Sure. We're hoping to ride the coattails of some other communities in the southeast portion of Michigan. Maybe they have some additional thoughts on how they're going to tackle the problem, because Detroit Water and Sewage was billions of dollars in costs.
Well, I think there's communities in worse shape than us as far as dealing with this, so it's going to break somebody.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, this is just going to say we're not that big a community, and we're fairly well off financially. But boy, I can think of a lot of cities, some really big cities that are in really tough financial shape. That I don't know. I have no idea how they would even attempt to do this kind of thing, and that's what makes this ruling so ridiculous. But that's a whole other story.
Okay. Well,
But
how
yeah,
about I come back
I'm good about that.
in 2 weeks with a resolution?
Yeah.
With a resolution to actually adjust the rates.
Well, that's why I asked, do you need that mechanism in 2 weeks, or do you just want to defer that and say, well, we're going to go ahead and raise them somehow? Because I'm okay with raising the rates in 2 weeks if that's what we need to do.
Well, something, a track you started to go down that I just wanted to explore a little bit further is the idea of the irreversibility of some of those mechanisms. If we start charging just the lead service line users, and then we don't get to theirs and this rule changes, well, I don't know how we refund that money or how it would make things very difficult on finance. If you charge 86 cents per thousand and somehow this gets reversed in a couple of years and we do a few projects, well, we still have those revenues and they can be used for other water line replacement projects as they come up. You could lower rates overall and everybody then gets a corresponding credit back to their account if you decide to do it that way. So that would be easier to undo, as you were pointing out. I think.
Well, I think you'd have cash going out every year until something happens to change how this works. So whatever money we raise through our rates would be spent, so it wouldn't be something available to be refunded. But we could stop collecting it, so that piece would be reversible. It would still be equitable in the sense that it's a system-wide problem.
And I take a piggyback on what's been said up here already. I'm probably most in favor of that option for all of the reasons given, as well as, which could be the potential downside over the long haul, but it gives consumers the opportunity to control their uses, to minimize it, which unfortunately leads to the brown lawn scenario, not in the fall or winter, but at least they've got a little bit of control over it.
Yeah, if we see a significant decrease in retail sales, then if you go from 700 million to 500 million, that 86 cents really needs to be $1.
Right.
So it just, you know, that.
The dollars you need at the end of the day don't change, do they?
No, I still need $600,000 annually to do this, so. But either way, yeah, absolutely. I think doing it now and starting to collect it is wise, because it's, you know, bite the bullet, and if things do change, like Pat said, the lead service line, Pat's absolutely correct. How do we refund those monies? That'd be way more difficult in the end, so.
And I'm thinking I'll check with finance to see what we can put on the bills, but it would make me feel a little better. I think it might make the customers understand a little better if we could have a line item on the bill that showed lead service line, you know, State of Michigan lead service line surcharge.
Yeah, so
Thank
that
you,
they-
Lansing.
Right.
So it's
So they
clear.
know it's not us. Absolutely. I think that's an essential. Get the judge's name, who decided this was a good idea.
His home phone number.
This is Judge
Give him his home phone
J.S.
number out.
Smith.
Have our customers and everybody in the state call him.
Right.
We can find former Governor Snyder too, maybe getting him in.
Spread the love.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lots of love there.
We'll do that then. We'll bring it back next with a resolution and a rate increase to vote on.
Okay.
All right.
We call it something other than a rate increase? I know.
You could call it spaghetti.
State-imposed fees.
There we go. Something like that.
Call it anything you want.
Spaghetti?
Oh, man.
That's
All
awesome.
righty. Where are we now? I think we're to the consent agenda.
We
Linda,
are.
if you want to read that.
Okay, this consent agenda is to approve the special work session and council meeting minutes of August 19th, 2019. Approve the bills memo in the amount of $2,114,067.06. Approve the posting of signs in Waterfront Stadium to prohibit bicycles, skateboards, and rollerblades on the stage, ramps, and in the seating area. Accept the bid and approve the contractor services agreement with MIM Enterprises in the amount of $28,500 for the Coal Tipple preservation efforts, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents. And accept the low bid and approve the contractor services agreement with Scodeller Construction in the amount of $21,100 for the 2019-20 Overband Crack Fill Ceiling Maintenance Program, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents.
Okay, is there a motion on these items on the consent agenda?
So moved.
It's been moved and supported. Comments or questions on any of these items?
I guess I wanted to make sure, see Dan is in the audience. Oh, he perked up. Just to confirm, as I indicated to the city manager earlier, I just want to make sure that on the item for the Coal Tipple, that MIM Enterprises is somebody we're familiar with and have confidence in. Because there was apparently only a single quote on this, so we had no choices to make.
We are familiar with MIM Enterprises. They put the windows in the entrance light.
Okay.
And bid, I believe when we sandblasted and did the lead abatement on the lighthouses, we interacted quite a bit with them. They've done some pretty big preservation projects throughout the state, so they're a company definitely capable of doing the work. It's not a real technical project. It's more accessing the building is the hardest part.
And they propose to use scaffolding?
No, they're going to use a lift. They've got fiberglass mats. They gave me the name. I apologize. I don't have it off the top of my head, but it's a newer mat that's out on the market. So they're going to double mat their lift in, and then in the contract, they're responsible for restoring any damage to lawn, curb, sidewalk areas. But they're pretty confident they can roll over the concrete without breaking it.
Yeah, I'm sure they can. I've done this kind of work where I used to work quite a bit. We're bringing big lifts and you just mat or plate the area and drive on it. Use big fat tires on your vehicles and you should be good. Okay, well, that was my biggest concern there, was that since we didn't have another choice, we're confident of this one.
Yes.
Okay. I'm anxious to move forward.
Do they have big fat tires? Full fiberglass?
But they can get them.
Yeah,
Okay,
they do.
That's good.
all right. Any other questions? I think we're ready to vote. Thanks,
Thank you.
Dan.
Scott?
Yes.
Fritz?
Yes.
Manetza?
Yes.
Bruegger?
Yes.
McCaleb?
Yes. All right, first item in new business.
First item is to approve contract modification number 1 to the 2019 street resurfacing project to Michigan Paving and Materials Company in the not-to-exceed amount of $245,418.60 to pave 12 additional road sections, excuse me, in September 2019, and authorize the Director of Public Works to execute the necessary documents. The administration recommends approval.
I need a motion
So moved.
Second.
and support.
Here's the $250,000 that you allocated additional in this current fiscal year's budget. Actually, you tried to allocate it in the last fiscal year. We couldn't get those done just logistically, so here they are. Now, we are also going to do the annual resurfacing program next spring, so those roads are being planned out now and being prepared. So this is the extra right here, $245,418.60, and contractor extended their price. They're ready to pave the week of the 16th.
This could be the same mix they used on the rest of the streets?
That's correct.
Okay, good.
Good stuff.
All right.
Not those big stones again, huh?
No, not from
Okay,
last
good,
year.
good.
Right.
Okay, all right, good, okay.
Yeah, I remember those.
Denny's keeping his eye on that. All right.
Well.
I'm glad we were able to do these extra.
All right.
streets.
And I apologize, the font that the engineers use to put all these projects is really small. So I can get you a legible copy if you'd like, so.
Well, that's why God made iPads, so that.
We can expand and we can get the font that we want.
Right.
We always have it
Minimum font size has to be 11, so.
Usually put my glasses on, and
Four
put it
or
up about an
something.
inch.
Notice me squinting at this very moment. That's exactly what I was doing right here.
Well, deferred maintenance is pretty costly, so if we can pull stuff forward and do it now, then this is good.
Good stuff.
All right, any other comments? If not, we will vote on this.
Fritz?
Yes.
Manetza?
Yes.
Bruegger?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
McCaleb?
Yes. All right, item B.
Next item is to approve the North Shore Drive reconstruction contract with the Michigan Department of Transportation in the not-to-exceed amount of $1,663,764 and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents. The administration recommends approval.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved. Mike, second by Bob. And Derek is still up there.
Yeah, I'm right here.
Night,
I'm-
night.
I'm ready to take that contract to Lansing in the morning,
Right.
so.
Oh, yeah, all right.
We have a pre-construction meeting on Thursday, and the contractor's ready, I believe, to start. I'll find that out on Thursday, on next Monday, installing some of the retaining walls this fall. So here it is. You guys have seen it, and I finally got updated pricing for the contract. That was kind of difficult to get out of Lansing, but we got it, and now we just need to approve it. City of Ferrisburg has already approved it and done everything they need to kick the project off.
All right. Well, I for one am glad to see the North Shore project getting done. It was not exactly the way we had planned it, and we wish we would have gotten some more money, but I think, with all things considered, I think we did well, and it's something that needs to be taken care of our folks on the other side of the river. So I think it's a good thing.
And as you know, the MPO, if I see him sniff money out, has come to the table, we're definitely gonna try and grab it for this project, so.
And
Never know what'll happen.
One of the biggest things is that it's really is a safety issue, because there's a lot of pedestrians along North Shore Drive, and there's not a whole lot of space for them to walk. So I think that's been my concern all along. Let's get some good walking paths out there, and control the the rainfall, that's the water on the road. I think this is gonna be help in both those areas, so. I think we're ready to vote. Nobody else?
Yep. I don't have anything good to say, so.
All right.
It'll be a really good project when it's done, and it's subject to both scope inflation and price inflation, and just it is what it is.
Yeah.
We've already discussed this, so let's do the contract.
Manetza?
Yes.
Bruder?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Fritz?
Yes.
McCallum?
Yes. Next item.
And next item is to approve a bid from ServPro in the amount of $25,753.60 for mold remediation services of all Chinook Pier buildings, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents. The administration recommends approval.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Support.
Been moved and seconded?
Sure.
Okay,
Couple times.
who's in charge of mold remediation? Oh, Ashley.
Ashley is our mold
Mold expert,
specialist.
okay.
Oh, man.
Alright. Ashley Latch, assistant to the city manager. So you have a much more detailed timeline of the series of events that led to this agenda item today. But just kind of a brief background, this was initially brought forward to us, this concern, by a single tenant, and we believed it to be an isolated issue between the tenant and a contractor. In the meantime, upon investigation of that incident, we heard from other tenants in Chinook Pier that there were concerns that there might be mold throughout their buildings as well. At which point we then hired a mold inspector, let me see, Fishbeck, Thompson, Carr, and Hubert. And we had them go investigate and do a walkthrough of the Chinook Pier buildings, and they found it to be a more widespread issue, with those issues stemming from severely increased water levels. We have had pretty significant standing water in the crawl spaces at Chinook Pier this year. That certainly hasn't helped with the humidity levels, but they believe another issue in the building itself. There were extremely high humidity levels in the common areas and mechanical spaces that led to more severe issues in those spaces. Upon receiving that report, they verified with us that this is not a type of spore that is harmful to people necessarily. The average healthy person should not be impacted by this. However, we obviously hope to act relatively quickly because our tenants are in there on a daily basis, but they did assure us that this was not a health concern to the average person. So we had a slight miscommunication, and FTC&H does not do remediation itself, so we went out for a quote from a remediation company, that being ServPro, and they did a walkthrough with us a couple weeks ago now, and they kind of quoted out the work that you see before you today as necessary remediation efforts, not including the withdrawal of water from the crawl space, as they foresee that filling again in the future. So that's going to be a larger scale issue we face in the future. But one issue we ran into after getting the quote from ServPro is other companies, other major remediation companies like Flagship Restoration, were unwilling to quote us. They outright declined because they use the same the same estimation software. So they said it would not be worth their while to quote us, and they declined. So that has slowed down our process a little bit, but in the interest of time in getting our tenants in a more suitable situation, we have the quote from ServPro before you today.
First question, where's the money coming from?
From the revenues that we collect
Is that
for
coming
the
out of-
rents at Chinook Pier. It's not coming out of general fund, it's coming out of our reason. Well, I can let Ashley answer that, because I asked her the same question. That's the answer she gave.
Yeah, Chinook, our property management company, Capstone, holds our funds for Chinook Pier maintenance
Okay.
and so forth, and we would withdraw it from there.
Good answer.
All right.
That's a good answer. That's a first start.
good
Where
answer.
are we gonna get the money from?
Now that that's off the.
Can we do that for lead pipes?
We don't have that much money in that
The
fund.
property management company?
I know I get a
I'm gonna have
laugh
to
out of
find
that
one.
one.
No, and, so actually in the ServPro quote, they talk about other things that are going to cost money in addition to this. And I wonder if anybody had prepared any budget or any action plan for that. For example, between line items 5 and 6 in their quote, they say in order to adequately access all water mold impacted by all the drywall and HVAC systems must be removed and reinstalled to make these things accessible. It goes on to say, tear out wet drywall, tear out wet insulation, bag it, throw it away. There's nothing in here for repairing or replacing that material. So I assume that there will be some reconstruction project and some mechanical system work in addition to this quote, because this quote is just ServPro's work, and so that's not included.
Yes.
So do we have any handle on what those costs are going to be?
It's not something that's nailed down as of yet. It was brought to our attention that ServPro doesn't do those finishings and replacement of the drywall. So that would be something we work with Capstone, our management company, to contract as soon as we can after the remediation process. And the HVAC system situation did come up in talking to Dan. That will be a concern. Instead of tabling the item, we chose to have that conversation ideally with ServPro and the mold inspection company to see what options exist for us to hopefully work around that, or see what options exist for that. So we, for the sake of trying to get the remediation on the schedule as quickly as possible.
You know, I've had to deal with this on occasion in my prior career as well, and so I know it can be pretty intrusive, and by the time you're all done, your bill could be double this or more. So I just want us to be aware that this isn't the end of the story. This may get rid of the mold, but you're left with a building full of compromised walls and problems that need to be finished. But I guess my biggest concern is that when we talk about the water that was in the crawl spaces, standing water in crawl spaces. I mean, I don't know how deep these crawl spaces are, but I'm sure they're higher than the river level. So water should have drained away or gone somewhere, and yet it stands there. So have we looked into how we make sure that we don't continue to have standing water, where it's going to go, it's going to be pumped out, dried up, or what's the actual solution so this never happens again?
Well, we've never had water in those crawl spaces until this year, and it is related directly to the water levels. The crawl space, in our estimation, is a couple inches lower than the actual river level, or at least it was when we had the most water in there. We had about 6 inches. We've got it down to about an inch. We've got small pumps down that are kind of keeping up with that. Unfortunately, there's no drains. It was supposed to be a non-permeable membrane underneath the pad to prevent any water from coming up. But as old as the building is, that obviously isn't working anymore. So
then is the solution to continue to just pump water out whenever it accumulates? Are we going to put in sumps and pumps and such so that it doesn't accumulate?
Well, I've talked to several contractors about doing that, and it's pretty difficult because of the way the building is set up. There's web trusses in the crawl space, and underneath those web trusses, there's only about 18 inches to work. And the floor is level, so there's nowhere for the water to actually drain. So you'd have to put in a bunch of sumps or we looked at putting points in. We haven't come up with a solution yet to get it dry.
So, I mean, we're solving the problem that exists now.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't get to the root of it and solve that, then we're going to be doing this again. And we're fortunate that, you know, there's a million kinds of mold, and these happen to be not the toxic molds, but somebody could be allergic to, or it could be annoying.
Right.
And it won't go away by itself. And you can treat it with disinfectants, microbial agents, or bleach, but it's going to keep coming back unless we dry the building out.
Right.
So I mean, there's another cost on top of the decontamination and the repairs. It needs to be a permanent fix or a long-term fix. If we don't have those answers, we don't, but we need to work on that.
We don't, but it's definitely on our radar.
Okay.
My brother just had that problem up in North Muskegon up there in his crawl space, and that's where he has his pump and everything else down in there. Same thing. And as for his heater and whatever as down in his crawl space, he had water coming in there. He just had it taken care of. I'll find out exactly how they did it for him. Maybe he might be able to help you, because his is right under his house, and they didn't dig around his house to alleviate the problem. They did some work in there, and he's got a pump just in case it does fail on him. But I'll get the information for you, Dan, and send it out to you, because there are ways to alleviate a crawl space for, from water.
Yes, there are. We just haven't found the most cost-effective way.
Yeah.
Everything that we've looked at there was some significant cost, just because of the intensive labor that it would take to get into to do it. I know it has to be done.
Yeah. I'll get that information for you, though. I know he had it done, and I don't think it cost him an arm. Well, it may have cost him one arm, but not both arms.
And a few toes.
Well, because this is related, I mean, we've seen water bubbling up in the parking lot at One South Harbor and at other places, where the farmer's market is, and we have, issues with water in the parking lot there. So it is, attributable to high water levels, and just a bad scene with and it's not, I don't know how soon the water level is gonna go down, so this is one of those 10-year cycle things, so.
We only need a couple inches.
Just a couple inches.
Couple inches, it'd be dry.
Couple inches would be good, so. But it is an ongoing problem. I can see, with all the things that need to be done, I can see that number getting a whole lot bigger, but it's a building, and that is, I think does a lot of good business for us, and, but yeah, these are, a question that I had, and of course, this is looking for in unforeseen circumstances. When we did the remodel of this building several years ago, I don't think this was the fact that there was gonna be a water issue wasn't on anybody's radar at that time.
No.
So I'm wondering if there's other buildings as we look to remodel along the way that we take this into consideration, if there are other possibilities that the same kind of thing could happen, but.
Well, we also had water in the depot building this year when
Right.
the museum never had a history of water down there. We had to redo well points down there. It was coming up through the floor.
Yeah.
It's just, those are our only two buildings with surface area below the river level right now, so.
All right, that's what it is, so.
Dan, when you come with whatever presentation for a long-term solution, it would be helpful if it also included, and this is a little bit of a gamble, but the historical high water table and the cycle. Jerry Mayer alluded to a 10-year cycle. I'm just wondering what that cycle is. If this is something that happens once every 50 years or 100 years, I just assume put some pumps down there when it happens, rather than spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to address something that happens once every 50 years or whatever it may be.
Right.
Just to put it in perspective would be great.
Okay.
But as far as this proposal goes, I think we've got an obligation to take care of our tenants and their customers, so let's get this part done. Yeah, thanks.
I think we're ready to vote.
Bruegger,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
Manetza,
Yes.
McCaleb.
Yes. All right, that was our last item. So we are on to report by city council.
Oh, I'll start.
All right.
Let's see, yesterday on Labor Day for the Third Street Bridge Walk, I want to say thank you to Bob and Jerry and them for being out there with us. We had like a little over 200 people was there. What a great turnout it was. It was fantastic, and I want to thank Ashley for organizing and getting this together for us. Thank you very much, and I presume your sister helped you with the design of the t-shirts?
Yes.
So tell her thank you very much also. I want to say thank you to a whole bunch of people here that donated their time and their handouts for us. So it would be Chris and Laura Gerard, Jerry McCaleb, Tina and Pat McGinnis, Carrie and Tim, hope I don't blow this one so bad, Hornizek? Forensic, there you go. Baker's Wife, Kilwins, Celtic Seasons, C2C Gallery, Aldea, Dairy Cream, Boars, Culver's, Jumpin' Java, Grand Haven Beach Company, The Paper Place, Creative Finge, Righteous Cuisine, Calico Cat, Sweet Temptations, Michigan Rag, Rustic Roots, and WGHN. I want to thank all of them for their donations and all the people that helped. So it made it such a good day. It was nice to talk to all the people out there, and I had a fantastic time. And also, I want to say something. I just read in the minutes of the BLP that people out there get the perception that council and BLP don't get along. Jerry and I met with Dave Walters not too long ago, and we're all seem to be on the same page. We understand what's going on. They understood where we were coming from, and it worked out. By the time we got done there, it was like, it was nothing really happened, but it did happen. But they are doing some things over there now that's going to be making changes. They're going to set some things up for them, so they have for them to do, knowing what our issues were, and we know what their issues were, and it seemed to work out to our advantage that council and BLP are seeing the same thing. They're working hard on trying to figure out a way to take care of our snow melt. They're working along with Johnston Boiler over there, trying to figure out maybe if they can come up with a boiler system to put in there for us to help us with our snow melt. And also, I met with John Nasser and Barry Witherall, and they seem to understand the same thing, and we're talking and we're getting along really good. So the perception that council and BLP don't get along is not true. We are all on the same page. We're moving forward, and it's going to everything's going to come out good, I think. And so that's all I have to report.
All right, thanks.
Just a quick comment on, I guess, finances and to plug the ballot proposal that we have going out in November for funding infrastructure for the next 20 years. The two votes that we did tonight, the $250,000 and the $1.6 million for North Shore, we're now scraping the bottom of the barrel with what's left from the financing that we brought in to take care of roads and infrastructure. So that proposal is all the more important that we get that passed. And I think it's an opportunity for the residents to communicate to council exactly how we want to fund projects going forward. So read into that, take a close look at it, and please vote in November. That's all I got.
Well, I'd like to reinforce what Josh says, that it's an extremely important issue to us, and we need a sustainable way of dealing with infrastructure. And this is a good approach for us. It's a finite amount of money when you go out for bonds, and when you use it up, then you're done. So simple as that. I also attended the airport board meeting along with Denny and Jerry. Listened to the discussion. There was a lengthy discussion about noise complaints and such. And it sounds like, from talking with Earl and other members of the airport board, it's fairly complex as to who's coming and going, when they're coming and going, and where. I think the helicopter is easy to figure out because it's a pretty unique sound, and I can hear it over my house even when it's not over my house. So it makes a noise that resonates. But other traffic, some of the plane traffic, when people have complaints to make, it is critically important that they get the time and the place so we can figure out where the origination of that noise was, and relay that to the airport so that if there is a bad actor coming and going, we can deal with it. If there's something that needs to be changed, we can deal with the appropriate source. Like I say, the helicopter is not hard to figure out. Some of the other stuff is. So I think that was a positive discussion. The airport board is certainly aware of it, and believe me, council is well aware of this, and we do ultimately control the property there and how it's used. And I enjoyed the bridge walk. We did the bridge walk yesterday, and weather was nice, and walked out there and walked back. So it all worked out well. I didn't win a prize with the raffle, so I never do.
I'm not bitter.
So yeah, I'll get over it. So, but I did have a candy bar. So that's the end of my report.
Well, I gave you a slip for ice cream cone.
Oh, yeah, what do I do with that? That's in my shirt, or that's in my pants pocket.
Well, don't wash
How about it's in the laundry? Yeah, it's probably gone.
All right, no, we did have a great time at the Bridge Walk. It was, I think, the biggest crowd that we've had as far as what I know, because we had the bridge full of people. So I want to thank Public Safety for giving us an escort across the bridge, and for all the people that made it. I'm glad we did it yesterday, or yeah, it was yesterday. Boy, time flies. Not today, because today you get washed off the pier as I'm watching the video of what the pier looks like. So. No, it was a great time. I thank everybody for coming out. It's not just the city. It's a lot of folks from Spring Lake and surrounding areas come and take part in that, and it's just a lot of fun. And Ashley did a great job this year putting it all together and getting all the donations from people. I think everybody walked away with something. So and that encourages people to participate. So it's a lot of fun, and it's been a great tradition, and something I hope that we keep doing. Did go to the airport board meeting last week, and that was very informative, because you can get a lot of misconceptions. That one of the interesting things is statistics about how much the traffic at the airport has increased, and that's very good for us in housing airplanes instead of using our hangars for store and locks. But actually, they have airplanes in them. And the gas sales are great, with a lot of comings and goings of all the aircraft that we have. And but we do need to, like I said there at that time, it's good to have a better understanding of who's coming and who's going and the reason for it. And one of the things is communication, like when they're when there are touch and goes, when somebody's practicing, and they are going to be landing and taking off numerous times, in short periods of time. The skydiving, competition or exhibition, to know it's important for people to know what's going on, and that there's going to be a different aircraft. It's going to make a different amount of noise, and it's for a specific number of days, and as well as like the breakfast, the fly-in, so people know when there's going to be a lot of traffic. I think that would be a good thing to maybe better communicate when these events are happening, so that neighbors know why there's a lot of extra comings and goings, other than just the increase of use of the airport. And we have wanted to see the increase of use of the airport for a long time, and I'm happy that we're seeing that regular airplane traffic. This helicopter thing is another story, because he goes up and he goes down, he does that many trips, and it's a wappa 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 sound that can, I think, if it goes over your house every 8 minutes or so, that might be a little bit too much. So we can look at that and see what can be done about that, because it does reflect on our city. And as I said at that meeting, I want to be good neighbors, and I think it's important that we take people's complaints to heart when they come and talk to us. We also had, besides that, we also had a catwalk meeting last week, and so for anybody that has not heard, the tentative date to relight the catwalk is September 30th. So at 8 o'clock in the evening, or whenever it's darkish. And so we don't know exactly where we're going to be gathering, because it kind of depends on the weather, but somewhere in that area. And we're going to get the plunger out, and we use to light the Christmas tree, and we're going to relight that catwalk. And once in a lifetime experience, which is the name of the event, because we're not going to do this again in any of the lifetimes of the people sitting in this room, I don't think. So I think, well, I don't know, a couple people, Ashley probably be around, and Megan.
Hey, Megan.
There's a number of us that won't be here 50 years from now. So anyway, so put that on your calendars. We are having a 9/11 memorial service on 9/11. I thought it was 9 o'clock, but they're moving it back to 8:30. So if anybody that's at the American Legion, anybody would like to be a part of that commemoration, the public is more than welcome to come. So put that on your calendars also. It's good to remember these very important things that happened to our nation. So that's it for me. City manager's report. And I want to reiterate what Mike said. Our relationship with the BLP board is very, very good, and we're working together collaboratively to solve the problems of our next power plant and our next snow melt system. So, but everything is good there, and we're moving forward together. So now to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Your Honor. First off, I wanted to thank City Council for recognizing the passing of my mother and gifting me a tree. That was really nice, and we'll be able to plant that tree in remembrance. And I want Derek Gatos to understand that this is a City Council directive that I get to put it anywhere on city property that I want. So.
Oh, yeah, you knew that already.
And I want Derek to know it's a Buckeye tree, and we're putting it right outside his window. But thank you very much. That was a very thoughtful and genuine gesture, and I'll really appreciate that. The only other thing I want to talk about are the Wave scooters that were deployed this summer. Interesting experiment here in Grand Haven. One of the issues we had was a bit of a difficulty with him tracking the kind of software he was using and being able to use the features that he had thought were going to be included in the program he was buying into. One is that you rent the scooter, and if you don't put the scooter back in a dock, you keep getting charged. Well, he didn't get that system installed this year, so they were just corrals, and people were tending to leave them in a few locations around town. And then the other was the geofence that he can establish on these, and it wasn't quite focused or surgical enough for him to be able to, say, make them slow down or turn off when they're on the boardwalk or that sort of thing. So he's trying to work through those technical issues, but he does have a solution. Did you get those photos, Ashley? It's called the commute system, and these are racks that would be attached to light posts potentially. They're 6.5 feet long, would take 3 scooters each, 32 inches high. They're only about 6 inches wide. They're very low profile. And this is just one example somewhere. This isn't in Grand Haven. But he'd like to put these in and use a power supply that we would have, use our lamp posts. And that way they would be able to be programmed in such a way that if you don't put them back in one of these things, it keeps billing you on your credit card or on your debit card. So this would really cut down on the incidence of people leaving them laying around. And he'd like to try some of these, and he's wanting to do them at the pre-approved locations that we already okayed him to operate: City Beach, Lake Forest Cemetery, Chinook Pier, I'm missing a few, Community Center. So we're going to find some locations there, and he's going to give it a try yet this month and put a few of these out to see how they look and see how they work, and then come up with a better presentation to propose several other locations for next year if these seem to work and do what it is he wants to do. So I'd let him know. He called me on Friday and said he really wants to get this going this month yet. And I said, well, as long as you stay to the locations you've already been approved at, those general vicinities, I think we'll be okay, and then we can talk next year. And these aren't going to cause, if you look at, it's kind of hard to see, but on the pole there's a rubber band, and then they're got a couple hose clamps on there, so it's nothing that you gotta weld it onto the base of the lights or anything. It's not gonna cause any permanent damage or marks. So if that's gonna be okay, I just wanted to present that, and that's
Those
all
are
I have.
just standing on the sidewalk. They're not attached to the sidewalk, correct? They're only attached to the pole.
Yeah, I'm not sure we probably wouldn't want them drilling into the sidewalk, so yeah, we just attach them to the pole. Certainly wouldn't let them drill into the snow melt.
Right, that was my first concern.
Are these going to block the sidewalk? Are these going to be across the sidewalk?
They'd be parallel to the street and the sidewalk, so that they wouldn't we wouldn't let it present any kind of a tripping hazard or anything.
I mean, the racks they have take up some space, but they're not necessarily in where people walk.
Right.
So I would think we would not want to block walking patterns.
We'll make sure that wherever he wants to put them, it doesn't block any sidewalk. Perhaps, when I went down and looked, many of the locations I thought might work were on grass. So we might have to ask him to pour a little pad on the grass if he wants there to be a pad underneath it. We'll
And the idea
be
this would be
judicious.
a trial kind of
Yeah.
thing this fall. Okay.
One of the things that, when our sidewalks are really packed with people, I don't know if that's gonna be an obstruction. I guess for me, it'd depend on where they are.
We'll put them right in front of Pronto Pup where there's never any people lining up.
That won't be a problem at all.
Yeah.
Safety yellow, so people can see them.
Safety yellow, okay.
Yeah, making sure that people can see them so you don't trip over them.
Yeah. 'cause
That makes them
it's-
so much more attractive too.
Or even some bright colors so they can see it.
We might get some reflective strips on them or something to, just.
If I
something
get
that
my
stands out.
skateboard out, will I be able to grind on it?
You could probably jump it.
All right. I don't
Thank you,
know.
Your Honor, that's all I had tonight.
Trial and error, I guess. Okay, general business, call the audience. This is the second opportunity for anybody to address council on anything what they have on their mind. Just let us know who you are and where
Hi,
you live.
my name's Laura Gerard. I live at 1035 Washington, and I own the surf shop at Chinook Pier. I just have a few little concerns, well, not little, but as to the mold. I never even got the report. I know there was one, but it never got sent to me. So just logistically, maybe we can have a little more communication. It's been a concern all summer from the start of the standing water underneath. The other thing is kind of passed over the health issue. It said, fairly healthy people, they shouldn't have a problem. Where's that threshold? I employ teenagers and young people. If they have asthma, is that an issue? How quickly is this going to get cleared up? I know you're, voted to get Serpro in there, but that's something that I need to think about as an employer. And we've been thinking about doing a little bit of work in our shop. I just bought the shop last year. And if the mold was found in some of the walls, do we know that it's not someplace else? Like if I decide to add dressing rooms or that type of thing and I get in there, or my contractor gets in there, where does that all lie? Do I stop and have to, I'm just a little concerned if it's one place, how do we know it's not in another place in my suite? So I just have some concerns. The other thing I do want to say, though, is working with the city manager's office has been a lot easier than working with Capstone. And that's something that I think you should visit. When I have a problem, I usually email Capstone, but I also copy Ashley on it, and I hear from her a lot quicker and get answers a lot quicker than I do Capstone. And that's a concern to me. If you're paying them to do this, and yet I deal with Ashley and Pat a lot more and get a lot more quick answers. And when the water issue, I became aware of that when I lifted up we have like a little trap door, and there was 6 inches of water underneath the building. Ashley was the one that expedited getting a pump down there, which has been running all summer. So I really encourage you to maybe look into that with the other people who lease suites as far as the response. And you're paying them, and yet the city manager's office is the one that is always coming through. So thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, and maybe we can hook you up with somebody that can answer all your questions for you. Anyone else? If not, we will adjourn, and we need a motion to go into closed session.
So moved. Second it.
And we need to vote.
Scott?
Yes.
Fritz?
Yes.
Manetza?
Yes.
Bruger?
Yes.
McCaleb?
Yes.